Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David.
And my name is James.
And this is where we talk all things Star Wars.
What?
And James, how are you today?
I am great. How are you doing today, David?
I'm doing okay here.
Doing great.
Yeah.
Anything special happen today for you?
I'm getting the podcast. So
there you go.
That's,
me
that's
too.
pretty special.
I got to go to Galaxy's Edge today and eat popcorn. Just want to say that. And it might be a part of a video that I'm going to be putting on Patreon. Speaking of Patreon, we got some shout outs right here. So go for it, David.
Yes, we certainly do. For the purple tier, I just want to shout out these huge supporters: Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters. For the red tier, Liam McCallion, Fenrir526, Matt Heath, Maya Morris. On the black tier, Maka Tawatala, Nathan Shank, and Evan Opaker. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast and keeping the show running, and all your messages, all your encouragement, communicating with you guys through Discord. It's pretty cool. And one of our $66 tier Black Kyber Crystal patrons had a birthday recently. And we just want to say happy birthday to Nathan Shank. He's been there pretty much since the beginning.
Since the beginning, yeah. I remember seeing Nathan's name very, very long time ago. So thank you so much. And happy birthday, by the way.
Yeah, happy birthday, Nathan. Your stuff is in the mail. So,
ooh, that's exciting. We're not going to say what it is. That's just for him. So he's got to get some.
Yeah, he already knows what it is.
Oh, okay. He knows it. All right.
It's the stuff we promise that tier that you will get. All of our backlog merch that we have. I don't think he got a set of the pins, the coin, and the stickers. I believe I mailed that off a few days ago. So
nice. So he
should be getting that soon.
Oh, what's good, y'all? Hey, what's up, Maka? Thank you for watching. If I said your name wrong, I apologize 100%. I'm really sorry. So what's up? How are you? Thank you for joining us. But yeah, like I said, today I went to Galaxy's Edge just for a little bit. It was a little quick visit. Got some really delicious popcorn, and I got a really cool popcorn holder. But I'm not going to show you. Like I said, it's just for the patrons. I recorded us getting this thing. It was really, really cool. And I'm going to go back again on Tuesday and get more footage and put it all together and release it on Patreon.
Nice. So, yeah, your Galaxy's Edge Adventures videos is pretty good, James.
Thank you very much. I
was like, this guy's an editor because you put that together really well. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining for me. You going through Galaxy's Edge, and it was like super high quality too. So that was really good.
Grazie. But anyways, hey, yo, David. Hello, James. Hope you all had a good day. Oh, thank you, Toasty Waffles.
Toasty Waffles. What's up, man?
We had a pretty good day today, but now it just got better. It just got really good. You know why? Because we're about to podcast right now. So, are we going to talk about it in order, like what like the subjects that we're going to go on, or what?
No, we're not, James. I'm going to throw a curveball for you.
What you got?
So, it's a somber note.
Yeah.
But I did want to recognize these people, because these people did have a pretty huge impact in my life. They had a huge impact in pop culture. And the first person I do want to recognize is the great Nichelle Nichols. So, of course, she played Uhura, Lieutenant Uhura, on the bridge. She was part of the original cast of Star Trek. And, of course, we're a Star Wars Stuff podcast, and this is Star Trek. But I was born in the Star Trek family as well. I was born into Star Wars, and I was also born into sports. We're a huge family on those subjects. And yeah, she was a huge trailblazer for what she did in that original show. Was groundbreaking. It had never been seen before. And she's one of the pioneers of being a minority on TV and to be in a science fiction role. And the brilliant foresight that Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, had was the fact that, yeah, there is not going to be any type of racial or gender discrimination in the future. So that whole aspect, which was kind of a through line through our culture in our society, especially in the States, wasn't going to exist in the future. And it was awesome foresight. We talk about the Lucas foresight. Roddenberry had it too, and
Agreed.
um, she portrayed one of the most iconic characters in science fiction. And I didn't have the pleasure of meeting her, but a lot of friends that I have met her, and they said she was awesome at conventions.
Yeah, a lot of
And
my friends I know also met her as well, and they said the exact same thing. She was awesome,
yeah,
and yeah, she was. They said she was very delightful.
yeah, she loved the fans, and I, c- I, the thing for me now is, I mean, I think about these like signings and photo ops, and I don't really want to pursue them, um, because they sometimes, I mean, the money can add up, and
Mhm.
it's tough to travel to the convention and then pay for the ticket and then pay for your food and everything. It all adds up. But now slowly, I mean, I'm starting to see that whole kind of thing happen where we're starting to lose all of our icons,
Mhm.
And I'm I'm glad that I met Ewan at the point that I did, but now I'm kind of looking back at past celebrations and thinking, man, I should have got that Mark Hamill autograph and photo op. I should have got that photo op and an autograph with Ian McDermott. I mean, it's a tough situation, but I mean, I did run into him at Oga's Cantina. So, but it's just one of those things that she's an icon. I mean, she means so much to many generations of young women and just science fiction fans in general. And um, her legacy will live long and prosper for
Mhm.
sure. And another huge icon we lost today, not in the science fiction, fantasy, TV, film realm, um, but a huge icon for me nonetheless. When I was older, I came to respect him more and realize what he actually went through. And I want to talk a little bit about Bill Russell. Um, he won 11 championships. And I know this is basketball, but I mean, he is the epitome of teamwork and the stuff that he went through. If you read Bill Simmons's book, it might be on Audible, but it details a lot of stuff that he had to go through the 50s and 60s. And he also passed today, and I just want to recognize him as well. And
Mhm.
if you guys don't know, the Boston Celtics have won, I think they're one championship less than the Lakers, but they had won so many championships in such a short amount of time. And for him um, to go through what he went through in our society, he was one of the big civil rights activists, and I just want to recognize him. And yeah, he passed today as well. And a third person actually that had um not so much an impact, but she was there, for my childhood. I can still one of my core memories, I wanna say, when I was younger, I came home. I was in elementary school. This was in the early '90s, I believe. I came home from school, and I had mentioned to my parents, and I was really big into Disney. So any one of the Disney films that were coming out, they knew that I was gonna have an interest. So man, it's so vivid. It's a core memory. I remember getting off the bus, going through the front door, and we had a big screen projection TV, and my dad had put the VHS in the VCR, and he had hit play as soon as I got off the bus. And I was before I could say, "Where is" The Little Mermaid was playing on our
Mm.
big screen. So, yeah, I just wanna recognize Pat Carroll, the voice actress for Ursula. And that's the first actual hotel, if you're watching us on YouTube, that's the first hotel that my family and I stayed at. I believe that's Art of Animation.
Mm.
And, I mean, she was the voice of Ursula, and at that time, before internet and before social media, of course, Ursula was kind of a big deal. I mean, it was a brand new character that was, like, on the scene, and she was imitated and copied. And I know in my family, she was kind of a big deal. So, yeah, I just want to recognize Pat Carroll. So, yep.
Yeah, this year I know it's a somber beginning, but yeah, this year's been kind of difficult, kind of weird. A lot of these amazing icons are leaving us this year, and it's I remember, I know off topic, was starting Celebration. Some guy, I didn't even know this guy, walked up to me right when Celebration began, and he was like, "Did you hear that Ray Liotta died?" I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Nice to meet you too. What?" And then like he told me like it was that opening day of Celebration. The guy just tells me that right away, and I'm like, "Man,
Yeah.
I don't want to start my day off like that." But yeah, a lot of people. But yeah, it's just, it's just the way it
Yeah,
is. It's just
we've
so
hit
weird.
that certain point in fandom where we're losing a lot of stars that we grew up with, kind of
Yes.
watching on TV and at the cinema. So, yeah, unfortunately, I mean that's just life.
Mm,
But
yeah.
yeah, these were three people that had an impact, and yeah, I just wanted to talk about them up top and just make sure that we recognize those people. But on a much happier and
Yes,
amazing
please.
note, so the big documentary dropped, Light and Magic, and oh my
Yes.
god, it is fantastic, terrific, great, the stuff of dreams, something
Faster
that
and
should have
more
been
insane.
done years ago.
No, I agree, and I was fortunate enough to go and see this panel. I know I mentioned it before. I got to see this panel at Star Wars Celebration this past year, and unfortunately, Lawrence Kasdan couldn't be there because he got sick that morning. So
Mhm.
he joined via Zoom,
He was the
and
director, right?
yeah, he directed. He did all the interviews and he directed the documentary. But it was one of those things that he also said was, this was something that should have been done a long time ago.
Mm,
And it's one of those things that he's been with ILM since the 80s. So he was there. He saw Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. He saw Empire, Return of the Jedi. And he himself became a pretty successful director, and he worked with ILM as well. And it was just one of those things that he one day was like, they all have a story here too. Like there's something here with how they did this, with how they created it. And so yeah, he went out and he interviewed, these legends. If you look on the screen right here, you got Dennis Muren, you got Phil Tippett, you got Joe Johnston, and you got Ron Howard, and you have the current CEO of ILM over here on the far right. And on the far left, I think she was one of the beginning she started off, she said, as a secretary, but then she ended up being like a huge part of ILM at the beginning.
yeah.
And I'm gonna say that I was interested in just open mouth the whole time of this documentary because
Yeah.
it's so interesting and it's
Yes.
so great. And before I let you begin about your review of it, the one thing that J.J. Abrams said that I was like, "That's so true." He said, it's with some of these movies, some of these things, it's like The Wizard of Oz. You look at it, you're like, "Oh," but then when you rip across, rip away the curtain, you see how it's done, then you're like, "Oh, okay," and the magic is gone. He says, "But with ILM, you rip away the curtain, and how they did it is even more fascinating with how it looks on screen." And it's so 100% true. So what did you think about this documentary?
Like I said, it was fantastic. It's the stuff of dreams. There's a certain point in my life where I was like, I'm gonna work doing CGI stuff. I don't care what I have to do to do it. I want to try and work for ILM, and these were the people that I kind of idolized. I knew about Dennis Muren, I knew about Phil Tippett, um, but of course, the internet didn't exist back then, so it was kind of hard to find out more unless you look at like Cineflix and stuff
Mm,
like that, which I tried to um, at my local Hastings, which don't exist anymore. But of course, now we have the internet, and once we got the internet, the prequels became a thing. So I got involved with that, doing research on all that. But it's incredible stuff, man. There's a lot of, I know they're not characters, they're real people, but you meet a lot of people that were super influential that I don't think a lot of people knew particularly about. I know the whole John Dykstra kind of
mhm.
story, but this documentary really brought his story to light, and they simply kind of laid out how he wasn't invited on Empire Strikes Back to continue to work on. Um, but it's super interesting that the origin stories of Dennis Muren and Phil Tippett.
I
I
know,
really
man.
love that. To
They
see,
started young, yeah.
yeah, they started super young. They all met in this guy's like house, his like
Yeah.
mansion, where he was basically the spark. I forget his name, but there was a guy that lived very close by that his like 3-story house was covered in just movie props and memorabilia. Some of the old Kong, like maquettes and like skeletal stop motion puppets were there, and of course that stuff's like worth like thousands, if not millions, really,
Millions,
and priceless to a lot of people. Um, but yeah, the origin story for Mirren and Tippett was super interesting, entertaining, and there's a great autobiography on Steve Jobs and by Walter Isaacson that kind of details not it's in more detail, but it's kind of along the same lines as Light and Magic. I know
yeah.
they don't concentrate on a specific person, but you kind of get a sense of how the genesis of ILM started, came to be, and how it grew. And it's kind of a lot like our podcast. Like I knew
Yeah.
you, then I knew Colin. You didn't know Colin, so,
And
and I said, "Hey, Colin could do this. He can be our producer. He can help us out. He can be on the podcast sometimes." Then you're like, "Okay." Then we go to Chicago. You didn't know Colin. You were like apprehensive at staying
I
with
was
him.
apprehensive, yeah.
You and Joseph, and then it comes to be like you're like loving Colin. You're like, "This guy's like fantastic."
Yeah.
And then Colin led us to Ray, and then of course he married Brooke, and of course Matt, and then Josh, and then Mason. Then Mason led us to Zach. I mean, it's
It's and we say that, and when you think of these guys who did the first Star Wars, who did A New Hope, in my mind, I always thought these guys were in the biz already, and that's why
mhm,
George Lucas got them. You realize a lot of them were not in the biz because there was no biz. They were literally the first ones to do this. And what was really interesting to me was how Dennis Muren said visual special effects for movies were done at that point. Like they like this the old timers couldn't figure out how it was going to evolve,
mm,
and which I thought was crazy, and to the point where they were even using those old cameras on Star Wars and repurposing them to achieve the special effects that they had to do. And I'm not gonna lie, like I growing up, I knew they had models and I know the camera, the
the passes, yeah,
motion. Yeah, I knew that.
motion
I
control.
I never knew that they legit layered all the footage on top of each other and then like I don't know, like smashed it together, and they had the camera that took a picture of each frame, and that was the frame from the movie. And then I'm like, What?" Like that blows me away. That's the shots of the X-wings flying, the TIE fighters, like that is how they did it, and it just blows me away. And then, thinking now, you're like, "Oh yeah, you just digitally put some stars in the background, you just do this, and you tell the computer where you want the ship, and the ship goes there." Nah, man, they were doing this all like just I guess raw, pretty much. Just I mean, and one thing I love is that they legit had no idea how to do it, but that didn't stop them. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll see how this goes."
Yeah, that's a legacy of George Lucas and ILM that I really try and kind of lead my life by. It's and my day job, I'm presented with things that I don't know what they're talking about, and I just got to figure it out. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what you got to do. You got to find solutions. That's really what life is all about because unless you're born into a certain family, nothing's going to be handed to you. You got to figure it out, man.
mhm,
I mean,
and,
and you're going to run into obstacles. I mean, you got to problem solve. That's the only way to do it, really.
and these guys were the ultimate problem solvers for the first 3 Star Wars movies. I mean, the way they were like my favorite piece of trivia was how, oh, what's his name? Robert, what's his name? The one of the head,
Edlin?
Edlin, yeah, Robert how
I
he
think it's
said
Richard Edlin.
Richard Edlin, I apologize,
Yeah.
yeah, Richard Edlin, how he said, he couldn't get the camera back far enough to do the Falcon flying out of frame during the hyperspace jump. And so what he did was he took a picture of it, a little small picture, and he put the camera here, and then he shot back really fast, and it made it look like he was like, and that's the shot. He was like, it's a picture of the Millennium Falcon, and he goes, and
It's a
people
Polaroid.
cheered. It's a Polaroid picture of the Millennium Falcon that I put there, and I just shot my camera back really fast. And he
That's
says,
beautiful, man.
I
You don't
like,
get better than that.
yeah, I remember I looked at my wife. I was like, that's how they did, like, shot, like, that's the iconic shot of the shooting off, and it was just a Polaroid picture he took, and it was like, what? And then what was so eye-opening for me was how the digital technology was slowly coming in, and then you have these old timers. I mean, not old timers, but the people who worked on the OG Star Wars, and they did the Dijkstra cam, they all that stuff. That was how they knew how to make movies. They didn't believe in the computers and the digital technology. I never knew that was a thing. It was like
Yeah.
they did not like each other because they were like, "Oh, no, that's not the way you do it." But the digital technology was there, and what's so crazy, this documentary really shows how much George Lucas was pushing that, how much he would say, like, "This is the way to make movies is so old. It's so stupid how you have to make these movies." And he's like, "Why can't we just do this?" And his whole thing
Yeah.
was, "I don't know how to do it, but I could find a bunch of people who could figure it out." And that's how he did it, was he was like, "Okay, you're a college student who just developed this crazy thing. You're coming in. I need you here to do this. Oh, you're this guy. I need you to come in here and do this." And they ended up developing digital technology, digital um, effects, and then before you knew it, what was it? The Abyss. It was The Abyss, Terminator 2, and then
Yeah.
once Jurassic Park, that was it. It was done. Like they were like, "Oh, this is gonna be like a 10-year in the future. This is how we're gonna be making movies." And then when Jurassic Park hit, they were like, "Oh, it's already here. Like we got there. It's done." Like the digital age and the digital effects are here, and nothing's gonna stop it now.
I love that segment with Kathy Kennedy talking about how they were in that screening room and they were waiting to see what ILM was going to give them with the kind of the proof of concept of the T-Rex
Hmm.
walking in daylight. And of course, that day was the day that changed everything for those executives. And I love the fact that she said once they saw that T-Rex walk across the screen, they all stood up like, "Oh my God, this is the way eventually."
Yeah. And I love that story. We've talked about it before, and I've heard it before where they tricked Kathleen Kennedy and Dennis Murin with the effect of the T-Rex walking. And she was just like, We got to do something with it." Like, and Dennis Murin was so apprehensive. And I love that he said, "I took a still picture in broad daylight with shadows and sunlight." And I was like, "Okay, this is the hardest test we can do for this T-Rex. If the T-Rex works in this, then we're good." And the T-Rex worked, man. That thing's walking, and you're like, whoa. And that's crazy to think that was it. And then the documentary ends pretty much there because that was really it. Once Jurassic Park hit, movies and everything changed after that. Like it was all everything. And like even George Lucas said after that, he goes, "Oh, I can do the prequels now. Like
Yeah.
I can do this. I can totally do all this now."
And yeah, Jurassic Park is a touch point movie. And for me
Yes.
personally, that summer was massive. I mean, Jurassic Park stuff was everywhere. Everyone was excited. It was the height of like the dinosaur craze. All the
Mhm.
kids were playing with dinosaurs. All the museums around us were having dinosaur exhibits. It was all over like PBS, and there's documentaries, the Discovery Channel. I mean, it was all about dinosaurs, and Jurassic Park is what sparked all that stuff back up. And what's also interesting, what they documented was Phil Tippett
Mhm.
had a huge role in it at the beginning to do all the stop motion for all the dinosaurs. And then, of course, when they did the whole proof of concept thing with computer graphics, and it wasn't like, oh, let's just punch up a T-Rex on the screen and have it done. No, they spent months and months and months of doing textures and movements for every single dinosaur. It took a while for them. They could do the shots, but the time that it took to actually render everything and put it all together and make it look realistic.
And to
It's
paint it too. Like, that was
yeah,
another thing. They had to paint that stuff on there. They had to paint the texture on the T-Rex and everything.
yeah.
And then poor, like you were saying, like, poor Phil Tippett was about to begin his production, like that was about to start. And then that's when they were like, you know, this is how we're gonna do it. And Steven Spielberg was like, this is how we're gonna make Jurassic Park. But he told Phil Tippett, like, you know how these things work, you know how they move, so I need you to help the visual effects to make it believable. And so Phil Tippett became, if you look on the poster, Phil Tippett is but I forget what he's credited as, like dinosaur movement director. Like, he became the
Yeah.
like the person who
Yeah, he
knew
knew how animals moved, so, I mean,
yes.
he was a valuable resource and someone that could help.
And I think that's really great. And then there's even that shot, and I've seen that shot before, where he's pretty much showing Spielberg how the T-Rex is going to move and throw the raptor at the very end of the movie. And he's like, okay, he's gonna, he's gonna grab it, he's gonna turn his head, and he's gonna throw it like this. And
Yeah.
Spielberg's like, okay, cool. And you're like, he was there directing that scene pretty much, you know. Um, I thought only when there were a few guys, but like that was really great. Phil Tippett's still going. I'm pretty sure. Um, if they ever need any help, he's there to help them. Dennis Muren also. I mean, these guys are just icons when it comes to the visual effects world. And I know we say Jurassic Park changed everything. And Jurassic Park did change everything, because that was when Stanley Kubrick wanted to shoot artificial intelligence. That movie AI was when he was like, sorry to interrupt, James, but all right, I think we're about to lose a lot of viewers right here. It says written and directed by Ryan Johnson. That is what my shirt says.
Show it to us,
If
James.
I can point it down a little bit. Not my shirt here. Written and directed by Ryan Johnson. That is my shirt. I
And
like
mine
this shirt.
says
Oh, I like that one. Okay, David wins the shirt prize here. But back to Light and Magic. Watch it. It's so good. They have good clips and how they did some of the magic for some of these movies. There's even like one or two shots from A New Hope I've never seen before, which I was like,
and we talk about that all the time on the podcast.
where are the, like, there's a shot of a Tusken Raider on a bantha, and I'm looking at that footage going, I've never seen that shot ever. And I've been watching all of these behind the scenes stuff of Star Wars since I was a kid. Never seen that shot before. So
Isn't that wild how we have that Rolodex in our mind of like visuals from Star Wars that we know we've never seen it before.
yeah,
And there were several shots in here and like
I was like, wait. So yeah. And what I really liked about this, and it was the visual effects, the special effects they showed was all the original footage. Like, it was all the original trilogy footage. It wasn't the special edition footage. And so I thought that was really, really cool that they did show the shots of how they originally were filmed back in the day. And of course, the controversial thing, George Lucas completely doing digital with the special edition. But I thought it was really cool that they were able to show that this is how it looked. This is how it looked back in 1977. And it's a great documentary. It's so great.
yeah.
Look at that, Dennis Muren when he had hair.
When he had hair.
He looks younger now than he did like in the early 90s. I don't know how he did that. Like,
He shaved his head.
he shaved his head. That's all it took, because he shaved his head. He was also he had a cameo in a Raiders of the Lost Ark. And if you know where that cameo is, you're awesome. Just gonna say that. But yeah.
Yeah. And we also got an origin story of Doug Chang.
Yeah.
One of our favorites from the prequels.
And he's also a legend. Like, and David and I found out that he is the vice president of Lucasfilm, not
That's
vice
incredible,
president
man.
of design, which I thought it was, but no, he is the vice president of Lucasfilm. And
yeah, he needs a podcast. He's so well spoken and he's so well versed in the English language. If you go to Celebration, he has a panel, attend it. You will not regret it.
Yeah, you and I got to see him, and he was like 10 feet, 15 feet away from us at Chicago. Like, we were walking in, and we just kept walking. And thank you. David and I walked into the auditorium, and we just kept walking forward, and we're like, let's just keep going. Like, no one's gonna stop us. And we sat like in the very front row.
Yeah, we sat in
And
the front row off to the left, and I was just waiting because it wasn't your first celebration, but you hadn't been to a
I hadn't
Doug
been to
Chang
the
panel
panel
yet.
yet.
And I knew it was gonna rock, man. And I was like, this is gonna be rad. And yeah, it did not disappoint. You talked about design, you talked about the prequels. I mean, just so much information, like the per second information he was just dropping on everyone's head was just incredible.
and
And
the
he
worst
just like flowed through it, man.
yes.
Like it was like the back of his hand. Like it was just like, this is that, and that is this. That's how I came up with this. I did the research for that. And it was just like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm back at work, but we're just talking about Star Wars.
Yeah, and like I said, it was just so interesting when he was like, "Okay, guys, I gotta end," and it was like, "Really? Like you gotta stop already?" Could you imagine? Oh, thank you, Toasty Waffles. All right, appreciate that. Could you imagine Dennis Muren, Phil Tippett, Doug Chang, and Joe Johnson having a podcast? Like, just hearing them talk about
Yeah.
how they did stuff.
Yeah.
Like I would, man, that would be so great.
Yeah, it would be must listen to listening for Star Wars fan and even film fans. I mean, these guys are the originals. These guys kicked it all off. I mean, we went from doing, I mean, just pictures on the whole, what's it called, James? The zoetrope?
Yeah.
And then we went from that to black and white, and then to color finally. And then the next big leap was ILM and the effects that they were doing with blue screen, motion control. I mean, it's all history now, and it's some of the most important cinematic in history in our lives. And it's like we said at the beginning, this documentary is something that probably should have come out a while back, but I think we're glad it came out now, and I think we're all glad that it's on Disney Plus. We can access it easily and just have it play.
And it's all there. That was one thing that was shocking. I thought they're gonna release it 1 week at a time, but it's all there for you. So just click on it and go.
Yeah.
I will say one more thing before we move on. My Jurassic Park experience was I didn't get a chance to watch it in theaters. My parents read that it was gonna be too scary for children.
Same here, man. They did not let me go. I tried so hard.
We begged. My brother and I begged, and my parents were like, no. And then there was a birthday party happening. Like when the VHS had just come out, there was a birthday party happening next to us, and we got invited. And the big finale of this birthday party was we were all going to watch Jurassic Park. And so my brother and I run home.
You're like, forget the party, put the tape in.
I run home and I look at her begging my mom, like, Mom, please let us watch. And she says, okay. So we ran over there to the house. They waited for us, my brother and I, to get there. And the whole party was just waiting for my brother and I to come in. We sat in the very front, like inches from the TV, and the movie started. And when you see the Brachiosaurus, I remember my mouth just dropped because I thought that was a real dinosaur. Like I knew it wasn't real, but I thought they built this giant thing and it was walking and it was there. And then the T-Rex came out. And then the very end, you're like, what's gonna happen? The Raptors, and then the T-Rex saves the day. I was like this is the best. This is the greatest. Like this is just.
I had friends telling me I just saw Jurassic Park in IMAX, and I'm like,
I hate you. But
don't even talk to me.
But unfortunately, I will say that the 4K 4K upscale is not good. The effects are a lot more obvious, and it's a little sad, but it's nice to have that memory when I first watched it and thinking like this is real. Like there's no way this is fake at all. And yeah, so like I said, watch Light and Magic. It's amazing. Do it. Okay. Enough about that.
I'll piggyback on what you said. So another one of my core memories is going to HEB, to the Video Central, a video rental place. It's if you don't know HEB, it's a big grocery store, and it used to have a VHS video spot where don't worry about it. Where I would always rent Empire Strikes Back for some reason because our tape was like ruined or something at some point. But I remember they had a CRT monitor at the front desk, and the day Jurassic Park came out, I was there because I hadn't seen it yet, and they had it playing on the monitor, and I just couldn't look away. I'm like, ugh. It was at the point where they enter the actual facility and you see the Mr. DNA, and it was that, and I'm like, they're not showing any dinosaurs. What's up? And then I
Yeah.
started watching the whole kind of presentation for Mr. DNA, and we rented the movie and got out of there, and I'm like, yeah, I got to see this, and of course it was great. And I did fulfill that fantasy of going to the theater to watch it in IMAX. I did it at Barton Creek in Austin. So
Nice.
I was able to take my family. We did it because they re-released it about like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
saw it in IMAX 3D when they re-released, because it was during the whole 3D phase too.
I can't
And so,
remember if it was in 3D or not. I'm not sure. I don't remember,
but it was pretty cool. It was like, again, like you, it was me finally going like, okay, I get to watch Jurassic Park in theaters. Like I was like 20, 23, 24 years old. I was like, oh my God, I get to do it finally. So
yeah.
but it's great. It's that stuff fascinates me. So I'm really glad it's there.
Yeah. And ILM is responsible for so much there. I mean, you see Pirates, you see Transformers, animation and Rango. I mean, just so much. And
Minority Report.
yeah, Minority Wild Wild West. I don't know. I think that's in the top left.
And then
The most ferocious animal in the animal kingdom.
and then what else? Twister.
Avatar.
They did a few shots for Avatar.
It still counts, James.
It still counts. They
The
did
Hulk.
They did one shot for Titanic, and it's this, you know, because James Cameron went with digital domain, but there's one shot in Titanic that
Doesn't he like own a piece of it,
yeah,
or owns all of it? Okay.
he founded a little bit of a digital domain. But it's just this one shot. He said we couldn't do it. He goes, the only people I know who could do it was ILM. So they created this. They were able to blend this one shot of the ship just looking straight down during the sinking. And I was like, that's cool that he was like, okay, we can't do it. They're the ones who can do it.
And if you haven't seen Light and Magic yet, James Cameron has a huge little chunk. I know that's like oxymoronical. A huge little chunk in Light and Magic where he talks about seeing Star Wars for the first time, and then he's like, he turns to his wife. He's like, I got to quit my job and make a movie.
just
he was
like
a truck driver, and he followed through. And of course, he's one of the biggest, greatest.
He is the one of the biggest grossing directors probably ever. Just got to say that he's only made like 6 or 7 movies.
Yeah,
which is also
shocks
really
a lot of people. Yeah,
but thanks to Star Wars, we have James Cameron and all these great movies. So
of course, yeah. Star Wars spawned so many creatives and steered a lot of people towards doing Star Wars type stuff, working in Star Wars. Jon Favreau, I love the fact that he talked a little bit about his origin, and I've heard that story so many times where he was an usher in on the East Coast, and he saw Star Wars for the first time, and he was like blown away. And he was the usher during Return of the Jedi, and he's talked about that, I believe, several times on Gallery and other interviews on YouTube. So
that's so awesome.
Yeah, and I love that they took it all the way to the volume, and they have animatics to show you how certain things work, how they pulled it off.
And then George Lucas comes in and he says, "We were trying to build this 25 years ago."
Yeah, that's a funny story. The way Kathleen Kennedy told it when he walked in, the first thing George said was, "We were trying to do this 20 years ago. This is what I wanted to do."
And it's so cool to be like, that's the realization. Like, this is George Lucas's. It's his legacy. This is legit his legacy. Like, he founded this company. He threw all these crazy guys and women into this building. It was like, all right, create this, do this, and they did it. And we're still to this day watching movies from ILM, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah, man. It's all the adjectives. It's incredible, inspiring. It speaks to my soul, you know. I mean, it's
an underdog story too, which is also
underdog.
very, very shocking. It's an underdog story because in the Van Nuys area, which you don't want to go to the Van Nuys area, but it's just great that it's. I like how they were like, we got to go to San Francisco. They're all like, poof, they all like took off because Van Nuys is not that great. But anyways,
and Dennis Mirren, he told the story. He's like, yeah, everyone moved up to San Francisco, and they said, hey, Dennis, do you want to move up to San Francisco? And he said, well, I took a couple steps out of the Van Nuys warehouse into the parking lot, and it felt like I was in hell. And I asked myself, do I want to leave hell Yes, I want to leave hell.
It was like the sun setting, they're right there near the airport, it's loud, and he's like, "Yeah, I wanna get out of here." And, but anyways, so yeah, great, great documentary.
Yeah, watch it. I think I finished it in 2 days. So yeah, it's greatness. So moving on, there was a report out today that allegedly
Uh-oh.
watch this on
Uh,
YouTube and you'll see what we're laughing about.
you'll see what I'm laughing at.
So ANDOR screeners have been sent out to media folk and screening folk to watch the first 2 episodes. So I put out a post on at Stuff Pod on Twitter to look out for spoilers because that might be a thing. A lot of people want to spoil the show, so
Please.
yeah, like line for line. So just be wary of that. But yeah, it's cool that Lucasfilm Disney is doing that for Andor for the first 2 episodes. And
Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they did this for Mando.
they do it for Mando.
They didn't do it for Kenobi either.
They didn't do it for Book of Boba. They did not do it for Kenobi.
So either this is first time for Lucasfilm for Disney, or this is not.
They did it for Visions, I believe.
Okay, that makes for
I
Visions.
think that might have been the first Disney Plus Star Wars series.
Is it because it's such a like a new thing? They want to like make sure the press is hyping it up as much.
No, screeners isn't a new thing. Screeners have been around for a while since the
No, I know that,
DVD era.
but like for this particular project is what I mean. Like they didn't do it for Mando, not for Book of Boba Fett.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, for the Star Wars side of entertainment, yes, but other companies do it all the time.
Oh yeah, they do it all the time. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious as to why they're doing it for Andor. Like that's my thing. Is why Andor and Visions are special, but not Mando or Book of Boba Fett. But then again, we don't know if they did or didn't do it for Book of Boba Fett or Mandalorian. So
yeah, for me, this kind of tells us that they're supremely confident in these first 2 episodes, especially. And some stuff did drop. Some leaks did drop about some of the plot points of the show, and I did look over them, and it's nothing too like
massive,
spoilery or revolutionary. I mean, it's all when you see it, it's all commonsensical stuff. So I mean, it's but
and we're already in August, so I mean, it's gonna be here very, very quickly. We're gonna be getting ready for this to happen, and I am beyond excited for this.
Yeah, definitely. I'm getting my hype levels a little too high now for this because everything that I've seen, heard, the trailers.
That trailer was just
Diego Luna was so excited. Tony Gilroy was over the moon. I was like, "Is this real life?" I was turning to everyone on the podcast that was there. I was like, this is going to be like the major takeaway from this thing. And I was thinking, no one's going to be talking about this because no one really knows, like, are as in depth on the whole backstory of Rogue One with Tony Gilroy coming in and them saying he's not even a Star Wars fan, but he made a great Star Wars. He helped make a great Star Wars film. He essentially was given the keys to it and made now a super beloved Star Wars film.
So there is somebody I know who is very close with one of the writers of that movie, Rogue One, and I one day asked, "Have they said anything?" And he was like, "He will never talk about it." It was like, "Oh man, just like nothing." He's like, "He's never." He tells us, "I'm never going to speak about that." So if I ever meet him one day, I think I'll try to I'll try to get it out of him and see if he'll tell me.
That's very professional because according to reports, like a lot of stuff like kind of went down and it got down to like 11th hour on like what do we do about what we have. And it's interesting because I know Gareth Edwards is a great filmmaker. It's like, what happened? Was it like the whole thing of maybe Gareth Edwards? I mean, the simple fact that Star Wars is so close to him that he just couldn't create something that kind of lived up to like a typical like 3-act structure type film, and it was becoming something that was too long. Because I thought back in 2015, 2016, 2017, if they were to ask me to make a film, and I'm not a filmmaker, but to be such a big fan of Star Wars, I don't know if I could even like function to be on set, you know? Like I would just be like, it would be so hard to be like, oh my God, I'm doing Star Wars, I'm doing the thing. Focus on what you need to do to make a coherent film for the general public, you know? It's just one of those things. It's like, and I marvel at JJ that he was able to do what he did. And especially for The Force Awakens, I mean, that's just mind blowing, man.
Yeah, the whole
It's
world was watching that. Like everybody wanted to see
yeah,
how it was going to deliver.
yeah.
And
This scrutiny of the world, the critics. I mean, he had to deliver. There's no way that film couldn't be bad, you know. And it was pretty good.
I
And
enjoy it.
yeah,
I was going to talk about it later on about all three of them, but we'll keep going.
yeah.
Just
So yeah,
after you.
we'll segue into that. So John Boyega, he
Oh,
did a little interview for on the red carpet for Jordan Peele's Nope film that debuted. And he talked a little bit about how he was impressed by Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus. Now, if you remember, John Boyega was asked about doing a series for Disney Plus, a feature series, a feature Star Wars series for Disney Plus. And he said, I don't want to be Disney Plus. Don't Disney Plus me.
oh
And
yeah, that's right.
I'm not quite sure what he exactly meant. You could maybe think, well, maybe he thought that kind of old stereotype cliche that I want to be a film actor. I don't want to be on TV. There's a separation between TV and film.
Yeah.
But really, when you look at today's climate, there is no separation. I watched The Gray Man on Netflix, and you have Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, Anna Darmus, the Russo brothers, all huge in film, and they did a TV movie, which I mean, really technically, it's not. It could have been a major release, but it was on Netflix,
I
and
mean,
that's the largest streaming service that exists right now.
yeah, that I think that a lot has changed over the years since Boyega has said that, and it's kind of weird that he did say that because you look at McConaughey and Woody Harrelson and True Detective that first season, which was godlike. Like if you've ever seen that, oh my
I
gosh,
haven't seen it yet, man. I need to watch it.
holy crap, it is amazing.
Shnikes.
And then you see other actors and other actresses who are also getting onto Disney Plus, and then you get Ewan McGregor. I mean, not Disney Plus, but streaming. Then you get Ewan McGregor get on Disney Plus, and he is a big actor. And I wonder if Boyega was like, okay, with the right stuff, the right things in place, this could be something pretty great. And one thing about that interview, they were like, "Did you watch Kenobi?" He was like, "Yeah." Right away, as soon as it came on, he was like, I watched it, which means again, he's like us. He's a big fan. The way he made it sound was he waited until it like 12:01, to start streaming it, and he said he really liked it. And I was again like you, I was like, wow, okay, he was. I thought he would say something, but no, he's a big fan like us. He really liked it.
Yeah, and aside from saying don't Disney Plus me, he then kind of turned back around and said, only if we can get JJ, Oscar Isaac, Daisy Ridley, Kathleen Kennedy back as a team, then I'll consider it. I'll do it. But I mean, it's going to be kind of hard now to get all of them back together because I know JJ's on the Warner Brothers side of the house. Oscar Isaac has talked about him kind of moving on from Star Wars. Daisy Ridley, I think she's totally game for it. I think she'll be
Yeah, I
back
think.
eventually. And the simple fact that John Boyega's character is supremely set up to be the star of something new, because we all know now that he has force sensitivity. He can become that Jedi that I think a lot of fans thought we were going to get.
Could you imagine that if they did this, if they did not a Disney Plus, if they did a movie, if they did a Finn Star Wars story, like
I would be
That would
totally up for that, man.
I think Disney would get um, a lot of praise for that. I think it would be something very, very special, and John Boyega himself producing it and, getting this thing I think it would be a huge success. And then Ray, Daisy Ridley's character, I think would be a great cameo for that. And maybe she's, not don't put her in there, but have her be a cameo in the story about this young man who's slowly learning the ways of the Force and trying to help people and doing everything he can to help. You bring back Kelly Marie Tran, you bring back oh my gosh, I forgot her name. Jana, what's her name? Naomi Aki. You bring her back, and I, I think I think that would be very, very good. That would be something very special to watch.
I totally agree, man. I think there's a story out there that would work perfectly for continuing that character's story into something. I would want a Disney Plus show, and I
You
would
want
want
to
them
see
to
the
sink a
show?
lot of money into it. But yeah, I mean, the popularity of Finn's character for the general public, I think he would have to be put in some type of like huge grander story. I'm not quite sure if Finn alone could carry like a trilogy
I
or a film.
I think he
Because I mean, you look at what Solo did. I mean, Han Solo, one of the biggest characters, and
but
that name recognition
It
alone.
wasn't Harrison Ford playing him though. This would actually be John Boyega playing him.
Right,
That's
right.
the only difference. That's the only thing that I could see. But I understand what you do mean. He is John Boyega, but he's not the like he's
Yeah,
not
he's not A-list yet.
A-list yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. I know he's coming out a new movie this year, which apparently a lot of people are already saying it's really, really great. Um, and so who knows? But I think this would be thank you for agreeing with us. And Lucasfilm, if you just heard that we just pitched you a great story there. And and Finn doesn't even have to be fighting the first or nothing. Like he could just be trying to help people against a lawless, galaxy, And I think that would be something really, really cool.
Yeah, and you look at all the reactions to Wakanda Forever, and I had that experience going to Celebration, and I attended the Ringerverse panel, and there was a group of black fans that were talking, and I got into it with them. I didn't fight them or anything. I started they started talking. I kind of said that phrased that incorrectly, but they were talking about stuff, and I like kind of joined their group, and they were talking about how there was kind of a huge missed opportunity to make Finn a bigger character than what he was and what he was kind of promised in the trailers in a way, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, man, I would definitely green light that. I mean, I would want to see Finn, John Boyega lead a Star Wars property. And there's so much story that you could. I mean, he is a stormtrooper. That is his origin story. He's a
Mhm.
stormtrooper that came over to the rebellion, the resistance, and then found out that he had force sensitivity, and it makes sense now how he was able to hang with Kylo Ren for that amount of time. I know we
Mhm.
all argued that he had training in the first order of military for
Yeah.
sanitation workers, but yeah, that was another thing too that they were kind of upset about the fact that they stuck him in sanitation,
But
which
yeah, I know that was kind of a slap in the it was really bad that they kind of were like, "Oh, he's in sanitation." But if you look at like the books and the backstory, they do explain that he actually was a great fighter. He was in the top of his class, and that he did something really bad, which is why he went into sanitation at still Star
mm,
Killer Base. He didn't start at Star Killer Base. He got kind of banished there, which is why he was like, I know all about this place. How do you know? I was in sanitation, but I think if they would have explained that a little bit better, people would have been okay with it. But no, everybody was like, "Oh, he was in sanitation. How can he fight Kylo Ren?" And I was
and
like,
see, that is the Star Wars dilemma. You don't know the whole story unless you explore the novels and comics.
"Yeah,
Then you get the story truly kind of fleshed out, and a lot of key parts that are missing are
yes."
connected, and you see the overall story, which does connect and makes sense.
Which and this all goes back to George Lucas when he wrote that first Star Wars movie because there was so much he couldn't put in there that he asked somebody to write a novel of the script. And they were able to go through and flesh out a lot of the stuff that he couldn't put into the movie. And every since then, every book would do that. They would kind of fill in all those little gaps. And it's just kind of unfortunate that some of that stuff is really, really good that you can't put in the movie because there's not enough time. And it's like, man, it's kind of a bummer. But no, I think John Boyega coming back to Star Wars would be something really, really great for Disney and for all of us as well to see him again, because he's great. He's amazing. I thought he was great as Finn.
Yeah, and speaking of books, we have a book club on our Patreon. You can join Mason and Zach, and they review chapters 6 through 10 on their last entry, and they're entertaining. They drop info, they drop Easter eggs, a lot of connective tissue. I listen to those
Nice.
guys, and it's like, yeah, these guys are are fun to listen to. And of course, they're going through Brotherhood right now.
Yeah.
And hopefully, the next book they do, I'm trying to get them to do Shadow of the Sith, and that book really highlights Rey's parents. You find out Rey's parents' names. You get backstory on Palpatine's son. So they kind of want to hear from you guys what they should cover next. I say Shadow of the Sith, but
Yeah, I'm for
we'll
that
see.
one too.
Yeah.
That one sounds really, really good.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to cover on this podcast is there was a little, not really a Q&A, but Jon Watts was kind of found outside of his hotel room at Celebration. And he was actually asked a couple questions about Skeleton Crew. And of course, we all know by now that Skeleton Crew is going to be the most expensive Star Wars show to date. And I think it's only behind I think it's technically almost it's not close to, but I think it's the second most expensive TV show in the history of TV, right behind Rings of Power, the Amazon series, which has an astronomical number behind it. But Jon Watts was asked these questions by another podcaster, Christian Harloff, who has his show. He has his whole network on YouTube. He asked him, what's the show going to be about? And Jon Watts actually gave him answers. He said, if you take a look at, I mean, of course, this is the very, very beginning stages of the show, and they haven't shot anything yet. I don't think they've cast really. But he basically said that, yeah, this is going to be the equivalent to a Star Wars Stranger Things show. So we were kind of like dead on with that. And of course, he said, he also elaborated on that. He said, this is going to be like the Clone Wars episodes that are really dark. That's this show. So essentially, it's going to be a pretty dark show, apparently. And they're putting a lot of money behind it. And it's going to be Jon Watts who helped create the Spider-Man Homecoming trilogy. And I'm getting more excited for this.
And do we have a date for when this one will come out?
We don't have a finite date. I think 2023, the end of 2023, like the last quarter of that year.
Oh, that's right. We discussed this. We said this might finish 2023 for Star Wars, since Mandalorian is coming in February. So
yeah.
That's actually, I don't know, my imagination's going everywhere after hearing that. It's like, okay, what could the story be? But I don't know. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see more news that comes out about this one.
Yep, we know Jude Law is going to be in it. We just don't know who the kids are going to be. And when you look at this picture, it looks like one of the kids is maybe an alien or a droid, possibly.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I'm hyped for it. I hope it's as big a hit as Skeleton Crew or as Stranger Things. So, yep. Can't wait for that. Yeah, so 2023 is going to be a pretty big year too. I mean, you got Mando season 3, Ahsoka. It seems like we keep on looking to the future. It's always next year.
Yeah, next year's going to be a big year. But no, this year's going to be pretty big too. This year has been pretty big. So, But yeah, 2023 also is going to be very, very, very great. So I'm excited for 2023.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just thinking about it right now. Mando, Ahsoka. I think what comes after that? I know there's something in between. We're probably getting Skeleton Crew, and of course, we were promised a film. But
maybe Book of Boba Fett.
Oh yeah. So yeah, there are rumors of a Book of Boba Fett season 2 coming out. But yeah, I know. Help us in the chat.
Yeah.
What else is coming out? So yeah, it's future's looking brighter.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm beyond excited for what's about to happen.
And yeah, and there was a rumor that Millie Bobby Brown was trying to audition for something in the Star Wars universe. And it's like, man, if they would have shot like 5-6 years ago, like a young Leia series, he would have been perfect for it. But of course, she could play older Leia. There are pictures of her side by side where she looks a lot like a young Carrie Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like with ILM, they want to go the way of like face swapping and CGI and deep fakes.
Instead of just having an actress playing.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all the news. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about, James?
No, I have something else, but I think I'm gonna save that for our Patreon episode.
Okay,
it's a little teaser about the sequel trilogy, but yeah, no,
nice.
that was, but yes, thank you all so much for listening. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on Twitter, on Facebook. We have 2 Facebook pages. We have a Facebook group and Facebook podcast page as well. Also, check us out on where are we at? Twitch, on TikTok as well. And please check out our Patreon. We have a lot of stuff up there. We were trying to upload each day, and it's a lot of fun. David and I have a lot of fun doing those Patreon daily episodes. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I guess may the force be with you
always.
Pew, 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 pew.